Hello everyone. In this SAP TechByte video, let's explore actions in RAP. An action is a non-standard modifying operation that is part of our business logic. We will check the different action types, how to call the actions, and some use cases. The standard use case of an action is to update a particular field of a business object entity. When an action is called, it's not the standard update operation that will be called, but rather the logic that is returned for this action will be called. So, what are the triggering points for these actions? It can be called in an UI in the form of a button, or it can also be called internally. So, in the previous TechByte video on determination, we had seen how internal action can be used in calling the determination, or it can also be called by other business object. So, what are the different action types? There is instance action, which is applied for a particular instance of an entity. And then you have static action, which is applied for the entire entity. You need to understand the difference between non-factory action and the factory action. So, mainly non-factory action is used in the update operation. So, when you are changing a particular field of an instance, that is where you use non-factory actions. So, say for example, we had a status field in our previous demo of determinations, where we had every travel instance had a status. So, we want to change the status of that particular field, we can use this non-factory action. And then factory action is mainly for the create operations when we are creating a new instance. So, it can also be when you want to copy a particular instance, you can use this factory action. Or if you want to create a new instance with adding some parameters with the input parameters, that is where you can also use this factory action. So, now let us see how these actions can be defined and how it can be implemented in this demo. For today's demo, I will be using a travel entity, which is a main entity. It has a child entity that is a booking. Now, let's see the preview of the travel application. It has some records, and let's click on go. And this is the details of a travel record. So, it has some ID fields, and there is description, and after that there's an amount field, booking price. Now, we can create an instance action which we can apply some discount on this booking price. So, to do that, let's go back to ADT. We need to go to the behavior definition. In the behavior definition, I've already created, defined some of the actions, which we will go through it one by one. Action is defined by this keyword action, and after the keyword, you have to give the name of this instance action. Now, the result is the output parameter, and this is the cardinality. $self is actually the type of the output parameter, in this case, the entity itself. When you give the name of the action and then activate, you will get a warning saying like this action is not implemented. You can use command 1 or control 1 to get that quick help, and using that the method or the action, it will be implemented in the behavior pool, that is in the implementation class. So, since I have already activated and I have done the implementation, now let's navigate to the class where you can write your custom logic. So, this is what is for the method deduct discount. What are we doing here? I will maximize it. Yeah. So, using this read entities and this entity, we are going to read the travel instance, and here you are going to specify which is the field that should be affected. This is the booking fee. This is where we want to apply some discount on this. And then this is, you are going to loop it, and to what is the reduction fees? Here we are going to give like it should be reduced by 30%. This is simple formula we have given. 30% should be the reduction of this reduced fee. And once that is done, then we use this update, we use the update data, we use the modify entities, and the entity update with the new value that will be updated for this booking fee. And after that is done, we are going to map it to this input parameter, that is the result. So, we have to read the entities for all the fields and then map it to this result, which is a parameter. This is how it will be done. And then we want this action to be effective, right? So, for that, we are not yet done here. So, we need to go to the projection of the behavior definition. Let's activate the projection behavior definition. And you also need to go to the metadata extension and specify where do you want this action to come up. So in this case, we want it to be in the object page, right? So that is why we are going to give it at UI.identification. So this button, the deduct discount, we have given the label here as deduct discount and it will appear in the object page. So this has been done and now let's activate, and after that we can refresh the page. So just let's refresh the page and you should find a new button with the label deduct discount in the object page of an instance. So let it load. Yeah, so you can get it over here, and here you see the booking price is 70 and as per our logic it should be reduced by 30%. So if you click on deduct discount, the action will be called and now you can see the new booking price, that is that it became 49. But in most of the cases, you might want the user to input what should be the value, right? For this, in case for this deduct discount, we want to also pass some input parameters. So maybe user also has to input. So in that case, we can make use of input parameters. So let's see how to do that. We'll go to this. For action, if you want to pass any input parameter, it is done in the abstract entity. So here you are going to define all the input parameters in the abstract entity. It's very simple. We are just going to say like define abstract entity and then what are the fields that is considered as an input parameter by that action. Now we are going to make use of this particular abstract entity. Okay. So again, we'll go to the behavior definition, action discount. After that, the keyword is parameter and then we give the abstract entity. So here we have given the abstract entity. Now we need to slightly modify the code as well. So let's again navigate to deduct discount method and modify the code wherein we can consider the input parameter and update accordingly. Now here we are making use of the input parameters. So first we need to handle all the conditions if the value is not, if it is invalid. So here we are giving like the discounted value should be within 0 to 100, otherwise we need to throw the error message. That is what we have given here. The error message should be there in case if it is an invalid discount value. And after that, it is the same thing that we had already done earlier. We need to read the entities, then put it in a local table, then this is a booking fee, the field that is affected, and then again we will loop it, and this is the new reduced fee with the same. This is where we are telling like we have to take the parameter. This is the discount underscore percent is the actual parameter that we have defined in the abstract entity. So we are just mapping that and then update once we get the modify the reduced fee, we are going to use this modify entities and then entity we are going to update to the booking fee. So now the booking fee will get a new updated value. So once this is complete, then read all the entities and then map it to this result. So we are just setting it to this result. That is what has been done here. More or less, it is the same kind of the code what you will be writing for any of the action. The logic, the concept of this logic remains the same. Most of it is usually you have to read the entities and modify entities. Then again, for once the modification is done, then again we will read the entities of all the fields of that instance and then put it back to the result. So this has been activated. Now let's refresh it again for the same and we'll see how the parameter comes up. Yeah. So if you see here now, click on the deduct discount, it is asking for the input parameter. So maybe we say 10%, then click on deduct discount. So instead of 49, now 10% has been applied, and that is why a new booking price has been shown here. So this is how you can define an instance action. And why we say it's an instance action? Because it is for one particular instance, only for this instance. And you define it in the behavior definition, you do all the implementation in the ABAP class of that behavior definition. Then you need to make this action active in calling it in the behavior projection. And also you have to place where should be the action be placed in the metadata extension. So this is what, now once we are done with the instance action, let us also see how a factory action can be created. To create a factory action, you use the keyword factory action and then give the name of the factory action, in this case copy travel, and then you only mention the cardinality. Cardinality will always be 1, and there is no output parameter for this factory action. So it is possible that a factory action can also create one instance with multiple child instances. So we do not specify the output parameter for this for the factory action. Now let's go to this particular method, copy travel. So in this copy method, we need an instance, and based on a selected instance, a new instance will be created, right? So for that, again, we read the data for the instances to be copied. That is what has been done here. And then for the copied travel instance, we'll try to adjust some of the fields. Like say, for example, like the begin date and the end date, it might have the past dates. So for the newly created instance, we say like begin date should be adjusted to system date and end date to system date plus 30. The status, we keep it open. And then we are creating the new BO instance with modify entities and entity, giving all the fields, the required fields. And then we are setting it to map travel. This is the new BO instance. So for this action to be effective, we need to go to behavior projection and then use the action copy travel. So once it is used over here, then only it will come into effect. Now for it to be appearing in the UI, we also need to go to the metadata extension and define where the copy travel should come up. So I'm just giving it in the line item only. So that's what we'll just activate the metadata extension also. Okay. Now this is done. Let's go back and then refresh the page. So you can see here a new button copy travel comes up, and it always needs one instance based on which it can copy it. So we have considered this one. Let's hit copy travel. A new instance is being created. Let's give a different travel ID, and it takes the starting date as current date and the end date will be plus 30. The travel status also is set to open. So this is how you can make use of copy travel. All the other fields, you can change any other fields that is required. So we'll just create this one. Now let's go back and see the behavior definition. We can also make use of factory action to specify it as a static and then use it for the default create operations. So how to do that? That is what we say, like, again, this is static because it's not depending on any of the instance, it's for the entire entity, right? So we say like define it as static default factory action. This is the keyword. If you specify it as default, then this becomes the default create operation instead of the earlier one. So here we say as create travel. This is the name of this default factory action. And we had already made use of the parameter, right? So in this create also we can make use of this parameter. Let me go to this abstract entity. So in action, all the parameters, if you want any input parameters, it should be defined in the abstract entity. So in my case, I'm saying like this is the default create operations and the input parameter is customer ID. So here the abstract entity is defined, and then for this customer ID, we have given the value help definition. So that means the value help comes up for this customer ID, and whatever the customer ID is chosen in the pop-up, in the input parameter pop-up, that should be considered for the creation of a new entity. Okay, so that's how it is defined here as static default factory action, the name of the create travel, and then we say like parameter, take the parameter from this abstract entity, and since we are creating one new instance, the cardinality will always be 1 for the factory action. Now let's see the logic for this create travel. So here for the create travel, it is very simple. We are saying like we are just mapping the input parameters, that is the customer ID, right? And we can also give our own, if you want to add in, give your own values, you can also give here. So I'm saying like the fields should be customer ID and description, and the customer ID you will get from the parameter pop-up, and description, let's change it to workshop. Then let's activate this. After this, we also have to specify the action in the projection, right? Now let's go back and try to create an entry. So click on create and then you get customer ID as input parameter. You can specify a customer ID and that will be passed to this new instance. So you can see here the customer ID is already passed and rest everything it remains the same. That means the travel status is also set because it takes the logic that we have given in the determination. Now let's go back to the behavior definition. I have also given here internal action. This is what I had used it in the determination. So let's quickly see what does this internal action do. So for all these actions, whether factory or the non-factory actions, the action comes up as a button and it is seen in the UI. But what in case you do not want the action to be made public, but internally you want the action to be triggered based on some triggering fields. So for that we actually have this internal, something called as internal action, and let's see how it actually works. So again I will go back to this method. So in this method, recalculate total price, that is the internal action is being called, where we are just checking the booking fee, and for each of the travel instances there can be multiple booking records, and we are also looping up the flight price of the booking, the associated bookings, and then add it to the booking fee. Finally we get the total price. That is what this method does. But what I want to show is how this is the internal action which is being called by determination. So here if I go to this determination, there is this calculate total price, okay? And in this calculate total price, so here I'm just going to say like you need to execute whenever that determination is called based on whatever the triggering fields, we say like execute this recalculate total price, and this recalculated total price is actually coming from the internal action. So this is how from a determination an internal action is being triggered. So this action is not public, but whenever there is a change in the booking fee or the flight price, the total price gets changed automatically. That is because of determination that is being called here. So in this way we can also make use of this internal action. And similarly, I have created one more instance action, that is accepting travel. So this is a non-factory action because this is, we are changing for a particular instance. There are multiple, the travel records which has the initial status is open. We can make it as accepted as the status, and that is what, that's a non-factory action because it is affecting one particular instance. So we give action as a keyword, then give the name of the instance action. The result is auto parameter, cardinality, and then this is the type, which is the same entity itself. This also is a very simple logic where we say like, okay, just read all the data. The modified field here is, the affected field is the status, and then we are just telling the status should be set to accepted. So that is over here where we say accepted. This has already been defined as a constants. So you can see here it is already defined as the value as A, and that is what we will have to get it. Okay, so now let us use this action in the projection. That is over here, set travel and then activate. We will also use it in the, so we have specified where the accept travel should come up. It should come up both in the list report as well as in the object page. That is what has been defined in the metadata extension. Now let's refresh the page. So we should get another button, accept travel, both in this list page as well as in the object page. So you see here there is accept travel, and it needs an instance on which it has to act upon. Click this and then let's accept it. So here the travel status has changed to A. That is what has been defined. And similarly, we can also see that accept travel also comes up here in the object page, and we can accept it. The travel status becomes A. In this way, you can see how you can utilize actions for your use case. You can use instance action. You can also use parameters, input parameters for that instance action, which will apply on a particular field of an instance. You can create factory actions, which can also be static or instance. We created copy travel, which is creating a new instance based on one instance, or you can create a new factory action, also make it as static default and pass the input parameters, and that will be considered while creating of a new instance. I can also use it for internal action where the action is not public, but internally it is called by determination. So I hope this TechByte video was helpful. Do let me know which new topic you would be interested to learn about. Thank you.